Hey, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Peace Podcast. This is episode 33 of season 2. Just give me the truth about the scapegoat, whatever that looks like. And so I have noticed that you guys have had a higher response to the videos that I talk about family systems and how some people are positioned or given a title in family systems and what that means for relationship and what it means inside of their family. So I thought I would record one about the scapegoat. My sister sent me this video the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so, so good. And so inside of toxic family systems, there is usually this person, and it can be a child. It doesn't usually matter the birth order, but it's not typically the first child, but it's the person that's treated differently and the one in the family that is the target of most of the frustrations or blamed for most of the mishaps inside of the family. And so the scapegoat as an adult can start to really internalize a lot of the things that happened to them as they were a child, but also inside of that, their insecurities exist around, maybe I was the problem. Maybe I am a problem. Maybe it is always me. Maybe there was something that I did besides just being born that made the family system function differently or disrupted the family system. And the reality of that is when you're raised by people who have a really hard time regulating their nervous system, functioning inside of peace, being a peaceful person, regulating their reactions and developing responses to situations, or these people tend to victimize themselves. What they need is an out. Somebody to place the blame on, somebody to place the frustration on, some way to lessen their accountability and place it on to someone else. And so what they do is find the one person that it's easiest to do that with. And oftentimes it's not your weakness that they see, it's the strength that they see, the ability to disrupt the order that they've created and make it disorder. That is the reason that they choose you. And so, what does this look like inside of a family system? Well, it can look like the child who never does anything right, the child who gets different consequences than their sibling, the child who, hears often, why can't you just be like so and so, their other sibling or their cousin or somebody who makes the family look good. And this also can make it so that this child knows and as an adult continues this behavior that they're not actually part of something. Like they don't really belong to this family. And so then you start to feel like the outcast. And oftentimes you'll find that in adulthood, when there are people who claim to be the outcast or claim to not feel like they belong anywhere, that it's really a product of their family system and how they were cast out of it and how they just didn't feel like they belonged inside of those systems and they were the outcast. So they kind of have taken on that role and identified with it. And so when you identify that and you understand that that's the position that you've held inside of the system, and you really start to examine it and try to understand what it meant for you and why it was you, you'll start to unearth some of those reasonings, but also you'll start to shed some of those titles that you've placed on yourself. Um, like when you tell yourself that there must truly be something wrong with you and that you don't really belong with the people who you were birthed into the family of, what you'll start to realize if you really sit and think with it is that it was you because you threatened the order of things. So instinctually, a family is very much like a tribe, and when that tribe is disrupted by an external force, whether it be thinking for yourself or viewing the world differently, it is a threat to the order of the way that family system functions. And so instead of allowing for the family system to have influence or have a participant who questions the way that things are happening, the family system pushes back on that person and makes them feel like something is wrong with them so that they stop having their own opinions and wanting to do things differently. So it may look like they've always had a certain religion, and they've always had a certain belief about, dating and when people should date and who they should date, and they've always had a certain um, cadence of the way that they function with their parents and the way they function with their siblings. And then if you are the type of person who would question that, like, how come all you and all of your siblings talk about each other so much behind your backs, or call each other and tell each other the bad thing that the person just told you about them? If you question something like that, then you become the target because you're questioning the disorder that they're living in, the dysfunction that they're living in, but it's all they've ever known. So then they have to take accountability for the fact that the way they're doing it isn't necessarily a way that is healthy inside of the family system. They would rather shun the person who's questioning it than they would to have to think about their system together as a whole, because then there may be something that they find that's wrong with them or wrong with the way that they were raised. Another thing that you'll notice is that you were the end to that person's control. So if you have a parental figure or somebody who is of authority inside of the family, and you're questioning the way things are done, or you're asking if it can be done a different way and wanting for there to be more harmony inside of the space, you're ending that person's control, because if they can manipulate people, if they can make people think that everything is supposed to be the way that it is, and it's the way everybody does things, and it's just the way the family functions, then they have control over the situation. It runs the exact way that they want it to run. But when you start questioning it, and when you start asking questions of moral and character, then you limit that person's ability to control the situation. And if they can control the situation, then they can continue to act inside of it the way that they always have. They can continue to perpetuate that same system the way that it's always been perpetuated. And when you question it, then they might have to find a different way to maneuver. So then you become the threat and you become the target, because what's happening is they need that in order to keep their system the same way that it is. Something else that you'll start to notice is your voice has ended the veil of lies. And so if you can speak the truth about what you've experienced inside of that family system, if you can go into the world and say, this is who these people are, this is what they're doing, and it's not in some malicious way, it's in a way of like, this doesn't seem very healthy to me, then the lies of old, the historical lies, the lies that have been passed down in that system for decades, become something that is exposed. So you lift the veil from those lies. This is why you'll have these toxic family systems who say, you keep the happenings of the house in the house. Don't go run your mouth about happenings in our house out into the world. And it's kind of disrupted in our modern day society if kids live in two households, or they're a product of divorce, or they go from one house to the other, because then they do share what's going on inside of the other household, and those lies are exposed tenfold. But back in the day, that wasn't the thing, because divorce wasn't as rampant as it is now. And so you had, this is your family system operates this way, this is the way that everybody's family system operates. And it wasn't until you did sleepovers or you started to experience other family systems that you were like, hold on, wait, this is not the way that a family system operates. We do this very differently in our household, and I don't understand why I was always told that. Well, the reason that you were always told it is because the lies continue if you believe that they are commonplace and they're normal. But once you start to uncover and unearth that this isn't the way that healthy family systems function, then you're going to take the veil off of people's eyes. You're going to reveal the lies that are happening inside of the family, and you're going to expose some things that maybe they haven't wanted to be exposed for decades, for centuries. I mean, you don't know how long these type of habits have lasted. It makes me think of the movie Encanto, and there's like all of these very big themes in that movie. But one of the things that I took away the very first time I watched it was like, there's this matriarch of the family who just wants people to remain the way they always have been, to not talk about any of the secrets of the family, because her most valued item is the perspective that others have of that family name. And so if you're the strong one and you're holding too much weight and your gift is to just do, then you have to continue doing that, because that's what people have always known you to be, and that's the expectation. If you're the one who, didn't conform to the family's rules, then we're not talking about that. We're not going to talk about Bruno. We're going to hide him in the walls, and we're not going to tell anybody about him. But the reality of the situation is there's going to be one person who finally stands up to that and says, well, I don't really think that that's the way we should do this. I'm going to do some investigating. I'm going to uncover the reason that this is happening, and I'm going to push for something that's more healthy. Well, that person is going to be the scapegoat. That's going to be the person that everybody casts to the side, makes feel different. And in this case, it was Mirabelle, because she didn't have a gift. Something was wrong with her, right? They had to make it be that something was wrong with her, not that something was wrong with the system in the first place. Not that it didn't make any sense for somebody to have an external gift in order to be accepted into this family, right? And that's the way it happens inside of the space of families that we're living in right now. Those old societal norms, those old familial systems continue to get passed down from generation to generation like there's something to inherit. And it's not until somebody stops and questions it that it changes. But oftentimes the people who are in those systems are so toxic that they don't want their family's way of doing things to be questioned. So then you become the outcast, you become the scapegoat, because they would rather cast out one person than have to change the system altogether. Another thing is that once you get the truth out, you'll notice that you were the epiphany for everyone else. So you may have known for years that there are certain people inside of the system who operated the way that they were operating. Maybe there's molestation inside of the family. Maybe there's, a narcissistic person inside of the family. Maybe, there's somebody who plays the victim and has everybody's mind contorted to think that they're the victim in the situation when they're really not. And so they have all of these people believing those lies, and you telling the truth can become an epiphany for everybody else. So then everybody else starts to see it for what it is, which, by the way, is the person who's still trying to continue that family system. It's their greatest fear, because they don't want anybody to see it for what it is. But when you do, that's what it looks like to break generational curses, because not only are you unwilling to allow your children to experience what you experienced, but you're also going to share it with your siblings or share it with other people in the family so that they don't continue those same toxic traits and perpetuate them inside of their immediate families as well. And when that epiphany comes, people start to look back in the past and start to unearth the memories that they have. They like dig them up and they rewrite them, because the script that they were functioning inside of the space when they lived it in present day wasn't real. And so when they start to put the truth that you've exposed into that, then they start to see it for what it is. Now, I'm not telling you to go into your family system and just annihilate everybody's character and, cut everybody off and just shame everybody for who they are. But what I am saying is that you can respectfully create boundaries with the people who you know are unwilling to change the way that they're navigating life, so that you no longer have to live inside of that space of that family system. You can also just accept that you're going to be the scapegoat of this family and just keep it moving, and know that everything you do is going to be wrong. So why not just call things out when they come along, because you're going to be the person who they are going to blame for it anyways. So you might as well make sure that it's, people are held accountable for the things that are happening as opposed to just allowing it to happen because you don't want to rock the boat or create chaos. You're already going to be the one who creates chaos. It's me saying that we're in a space where we don't have to continue to live the way that our families have always lived in an effort to be respectful to the family name, but that we can call out the toxic traits. We can call out the things that are making the family system one of dysfunction. And we can say, no longer am I willing to accept that as part of this family. I'm willing to only maneuver and operate inside of a healthy family system. And if that makes you the scapegoat forever, then guess what? It does. But you have control over what healthy looks like in your family system. You have control over what you want to perpetuate in your family system, what the space that you want to create for your immediate family members, and you don't have to continue to have people experience what you experienced in the past. And so if you find yourself today in a space where you're standing up for other people in the family, you're telling the truth about what's going on inside of the system, you're becoming the epiphany, you're willing to just be who they've labeled you as in order for that toxicity to not permeate into the rest of everyone else in the family system's future, then I just want you to understand that it's a hard space to be. It's a hard title to hold, but that you are breaking generational curses, and that is a lot of weight to carry on your back. But the outcome of that is a life of freedom, a life where you're not living in the bondage of the shame that your family has handed down to you, and you can pass that on to generations to come, the healthiness and the love in a way that they will get to experience something that you never did, and they won't ever experience what you did. So I salute you for being the one to stand up. I salute you for understanding that holding that title really means nothing because you're really changing and shifting things. And sometimes it takes one person to do that. And that one person just may be you, whether you're the scapegoat of the family or not. So if this video helped you, please share it with someone else. Remember, knowledge kept to yourself is selfish, but sharing it with other people really just gets them a message that could break them free from their bondage. And that's really what I'm setting out to do, is to make sure that people live a life of peace, break free from the bondage that's keeping them in the same space and stagnant, and can live the life that is really for them and that is God's will for them. So thank you again for tuning in. Don't forget to look me up on all social media sites and like and subscribe to this page. Go ahead and click that share button and share it with someone you know.